Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create a concept car like the one shown here on the screen. What I'm going to do for this one though is keep it really basic and really simple, using the form tool and some of the other basic tools up here to create a design that visually looks okay but isn't particularly detailed in terms of accuracy and internals and things like that. Alright, but hopefully by the end of this video you should be able to knock up something like this. And then obviously as your skill level increases, you can then go further and further with it, building in more and more accuracy as you go. All right, so let's get started, and I will see you on the other side of my awesome intro. So let's jump straight in with the first tool we're going to use, which is up here, the form tool. We've looked at this before in the mouse tutorial, so hopefully you guys have looked at that before. So click on this, and then you get all these options come up, and we're going to start with just the plain box. This is going to be a really sort of a good base shape to start with when we're creating this card. So if I click on that and choose the plane that I want to start on, so I want to start on this one here. So if I click there, and the important thing here is to make sure that I line this up with the green axis here. So I'm going to start at the origin, and I'm not going to worry about the scale here. So this is only sort of 180 millimeters long. That's fine for the purposes of what we're doing today because we're only working on a visual prototype, if you like. So I click that down, and now it's asking me, well, how thick do I want this block? I think let's go with something like this. Okay, so this is going to be our basic block that we're going to use to stretch and pull to shape to create the main body of the car. Okay, so let's go OK. Right, there it is. The first thing we need to do then, now we've got something that looks a little bit like this, is to put a mirror line on the product. So if I click here and it says select the faces, I want to put a mirror line between this face and this face. It doesn't really matter which one you pick, as long as the green line appears up the center of the car, or what will be the car. At the moment it looks like a block of soap, but we're going to start sort of squishing it to shape in a second. Okay, so okay, I'm happy with that. Right, so here's where you can start to get creative. Using the modify tool up here, we can start to move all this about and make it whatever shape we want. All right, so let's have a look first of all at if I grab this face here, and you can see I've got a range of options that have appeared here. I can move it up and down, forwards and back, left and right, but also I've got other options, like rather than moving it up and down, left and right, I can grab this square here and sort of drag it on that side plane, if you like, into any position I want to, which is kind of cool. I can also make that part of the design bigger and smaller. So as you can see, that face has shrunk, and now it's growing again. But also notice how this one over here, this yellow one, is lit up, because what it's saying is, well, because of this mirror line, you might be editing this shape, but it's also editing that shape over there at the same time because of the mirror line. Okay, so I'm only going to worry about one side of the car and trust that that mirror line means that all of this side's going to look okay as well. All right, so we need to create a basic shape for a car. The way we're going to do this, or the way I'm going to do this, is by making this the front and this the back. So the first thing I want to do is kind of make a lower bonnet area at the front. All right, and my choices are either to grab a face like this, pull it downwards, or I can even, if I wanted, let's say, a raised or lowered area in the middle of the bonnet, I could even grab a line rather than a face and move that to create an indent in this case, as you can see, or a raised area if I wanted to do that, for example, and then pull this down. So in terms of exactly how to do this, it's really sort of open to interpretation, because you can play around with these settings and these things for hours and hours and hours. So the other thing I didn't explain as well is you've got this angle slider here as well, so feel free to play with that. So I can angle it on this axis, and I can do it on this axis. What else was there I was going to tell you about? think that's it on the actual settings. But what I would say is before you sort of pause me and crack on for yourself, um, one rule I would suggest is good to stick to is not splitting these faces up too much, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Right. So um, if, for example, I wanted a bit more fine control over the shape of this piece, I can go up here and go subdivide, which will turn that into 4 faces instead of 1. The problem is, once you start doing this and making lots and lots of faces, it becomes difficult to get a really smooth shape. You end up with lots of lumps and bumps. You might have more control, but you also you need to be more precise if you're doing that. Okay, so what I would suggest is that we try as much as possible to stick with the amount of sort of division lines that it gives us at the start. Okay, so I'm going to make my shape now for my car. You can either watch me do it, because I'm not gonna speed this up and do a time lapse. I'm gonna do it slowly so you can watch exactly how I do it. Or if you've got the concept and you've done the mouse tutorials before, you can just skip on until I've finished and I start talking again. Okay. So let's do it. Actually, knowing me, I probably won't stop talking. So modify. I'm going to bring this down to make the front of the car like that. I'm going to change the angle to make the bonnet a bit flatter. And I don't really like this curve at the front so much, so I'm going to bring this down like that, bring that forwards, maybe change the angle slightly. Okay, that's better. Now, as you can see, I've got this bulge in the middle of the bonnet, which I don't entirely hate, but I think it's a little bit high, so I'm going to bring that down, change the angle. And the design I'm going to go for here is a 2-seater design, I should have said. So I'm going to have the sort of the cockpit, if you like, the cab up here. This will be the bonnet, and there won't be much sticking out the back. So that's why I'm going to go with this shape. Also, you can select a point, by the way. So I know we've looked at faces and lines and how you can move those about, but you can actually just select a point like this if you want to, and shift points about within the design. Okay, I think I'm going to leave the front like that. I'm not going to do too much more to it. Remember, this is the simpler way to do it out of the two. So I'm going to keep it quite basic. I'm going to grab this at the back now, bring that down. I quite like how this line here sort of curves between the front and the back. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing this sort of geometry line downwards at the back, but I'm leaving it higher in the middle. But what I might do is just grab this and pull it inwards in the middle so it doesn't stick out quite as far. So there's a bit of an indent in the middle of the design. And then I might do the opposite at the back and just bring out, if I grab this line here, and if I hold shift, I can select that one too. Bring this one out a little bit wider at the back. So the rear of the vehicle, if I just zoom out a bit and look down from above, you can see the rear of the design is wider than the front. Okay. Right. Am I happy with that? I don't like the back. And I think the cab could be a little bit wide. So what I'm going to do is grab this, pull that in. So it's looking a little bit better. And what I might do as well is just shift that. So yeah, you can spend ages and ages and ages tweaking this, just changing the shape, pulling things about until you're ultimately happy with the design. I know this is kind of quite a way off being an amazing design at the moment, but I am going to stop here. I've got a basic shape, and I'm conscious of the fact that my videos do tend to go on. So even though this isn't a great design, I'm going to end here and move on to the next bit. Okay? Right, so we've got a design, we've got a shape, and I'm going to go finish form now. So I've come back out of the form tools. So if I go back into the form, you'll see what I mean. I've got all of these settings up here when I'm in the form tools, but when you finish, it comes back out and you get your original menu back up again. All right. So the second step then is going to be um, to cut the sort of wheel arches through here. And remember, this is a very, very basic way of doing it. So this is just going to create a visually okay result. It's not by any means accurate. And to do that, what I need to do is basically draw two circles here, one here, and chop them through. All right. So if I go to create sketch, I want to pick the plane that runs through the middle, like this. And then using the circle tool, I can draw the circle at the front of the vehicle for the front wheel. That's too far forward, so I don't want that. Let's say here. And let's use the dimension tool to see how big that is. So obviously this isn't to scale, that's 37 point something millimeters. So I'm going to round that down to 37. The reason why I want an accurate number, it doesn't really matter what it is because then when I create the second, I can make it the same. So if I do that, I can come back to sketch dimension and make that 37 as well. Okay, so I've got my two shapes for my wheels. I'm just going to zoom out and check, are they in the right position? Yes, they'll do for the purposes of this. So I'm going to go finish sketch, extrude, select both of these, and I'm going to change the direction over here to symmetric so I can pull it out like this and chop through both sides. Okay, boom, there we go. So I've got my wheel arches now, front and back, and I'm ready to start designing the wheels. So what we're going to do that is we're actually going to create a new plane. So if I go create sketch, I can use this plane here in the center to start designing wheels, but then the wheel will be in the center of the car. Okay, so I'm going to use this up here. If I go to construct offset plane, this will let me pick a plane and make a copy of it in a different position. All right, so I'm going to go offset plane and make a new copy of that one over here. All right, so all I did was I clicked on this plane and dragged the blue arrow until it's where I want. Now, if I look at the front of the car, like this, where I want that plane is just in the position where I want the outer part of the front wheel to be. All right, so I'll worry about the back one afterwards, but I'm just going to look at the front wheel. Do I want the edge of the tyre to stick out that much from the vehicle? I could zoom in more and sort of more finely control where that plane is, but yeah, actually that's not too bad. It sticks out a little bit from the body. It might make it look quite race car-y if it sticks out a bit anyway, so that is good. All right, if I look from above, you'll see what I mean. You can see the plane is here and the wheel arch is sort of there, so the tyre will stick out this far. All right, so let's go OK. There's my new plane, and what I want to do is create a new sketch on that plane. All right, so creating the wheel. Now, what I'm hoping is that this circle here, will I be able to snap to the center point? No, that's annoying. So what I'm going to have to do here, this is slightly fiddly, is work out where the center of that wheel is, or that arch is. I think, if I just look at this line, I think that's the top middle there. That's not the middle of it. So I think if I'm in line with that line there, and about there should be the center, is it right? Close enough, that'll do. So create the shape of the wheel. That's how big I want it. I'm going to leave a bit of a gap, like so. There we are. And all I'm going to do now is click Finish Sketch and do an extrude the full width of the tyre. So how wide do I want the tyre? I think we'll go with that. That's fine. There we go. And again, let me just clarify, this is a really basic way of just creating an initial design. So this is by no means a a sort of technically accurate way of doing this. This will create a result that looks okay at the end, but if you know any fancier tools or fancier ways of creating this, then by all means go for it. This is meant to just be a sort of simple tutorial that shows you how to get a result relatively quickly. Okay, so on the face of this now, I'm going to make a new sketch. So I'll go up here, create sketch, click on the face of the wheel, and what should happen now, there you go, see that circle, that blue circle in the middle? That's telling me that if I click there, that's the center of this circle. That's a center point being highlighted. So if I click on that, I know that this is going to be concentric to the outer one. So how big do I want the tire on here? Well, I'm going to go relatively low profile. So let's go there. Go again, finish sketch. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extrude this very, very slightly. So I'm going to zoom in because it'll give me more fine control. But I'm going to bring this in and do a slight cut like that. There you go. See that? So what I've got is the tire is a bit further out than the center part of the wheel. And this will allow us later on to color these two bits in two different colors. So put a rubber texture on here and then like a aluminium effect on here. Trust me, it works. Okay, so let's go on here. Let's get a new sketch on that face. And what we're going to do, we're going to create the pattern to sort of cut through to make the spokes of the wheel. All right. So again, in the center, you can see there's a center point. That's going to be really helpful for us. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a couple of circles. So I'm going to put a circle near the edge here. This will create the rim of the alloy. So this bit around the outside, this bit here, where my mouse is, that's going to be solid metal. I don't really want to be cutting cutouts into that bit. And here's the center. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to put another circle in the middle. And again, this bit, I don't really want any cutouts in as well. Then what I'm going to do is create just one of the cutout shapes that I can then repeat. You'll see what I mean when I do it. So if I get a line and then draw a line between from this middle circle to the outer circle, and what I'm going to do actually is just do this. There we go. So where's the little arrow? The little tick. There we go. So what I've done is I've created a spoke, if you like, for my wheel, and I'm going to use the trim tool to snip away the bits that I don't need. There we go. So I've got one spoke of the alloy wheel. And what I can do now is I can repeat that again and again around here. And if you wanted to be fancy, you could use curves to create curved spokes if you wanted to, or do something really cool with the shape of this. But remember, this is the basic tutorial, so I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to grab these now and make a copy. So the way we do that is we go down here to circular pattern. So under the create menu, circular pattern. I haven't finished the sketch, so I'm still in the sketch. And the objects I want to create a copy of are these two lines. The center point is going to be that. And now I can choose how many do I want. How many spokes do I want? Now, what I would suggest here is it's up to you completely, but I do like to have an odd number. I feel like an odd number looks better when it comes to alloy wheels. So I'm going to go with 9 and then go OK. Right, so trim again, get the little scissor tool, and I'm just going to, why are you moaning? Okay. I'm just going to snip out all of these connections. There we go. So they're like the first one, and somehow I've managed to accidentally chop that one out. Oh, hang on, what's going on here? So that right, that one. So I've managed to somehow get rid of 2 I needed. What I can do here is I could draw that circle back in or go undo. I don't think you'll notice it though if I just do this. I think I'll probably get away with that. So just draw 2 lines back in there. Get the trim tool again, and so as you can see, what happened there is I clicked on the trim tool and I clicked on this bit, but it deleted that bit. So I might just need to come back. There you go, and do bits again. Yeah, it's done it there as well. Look. So go undo. There we go. So just very carefully watch for that. As you do this, be careful with the trim tool because it does seem to sometimes accidentally trim away bits that you don't want. This is going better now. So just go slowly and check it. Yeah, there we go. So I'm happy with that. Finish sketch. And now I'm going to do an extrude, but I'm going to extrude what will be the gaps. And, oops, get the arrow, pull those through. As you can see, it's gone red. That's telling me it's going to do a cut, which is what I want to do. Chop. Okay, there we go. So I've created a very, very basic design for an alloy wheel. Things you can do to this now before we move on to the next step might be to put a fillet on that face and use the slider like so to add curvature, maybe to the edge of the tyre as well. Bit of curvature there. There we go. So actually, even though this is a very, very basic way of creating an alloy wheel, as you can see, the result isn't that bad. It looks pretty good, actually. We won't look at it from this side, don't worry about that. But all we've got to do now is colour it, apply the colours, and make copies. So what I'm going to do is, even though I've not started looking at the appearance of the bodywork and things like that, I am going to change the appearance of the tyre now, because if I make 4 copies, or 3 copies to make 4 of them, I don't really want to be doing each individual one again and again. So if I change the colours on this now, it means that all the other ones should be relatively straightforward. If I need to make a change on one of the colours, at least most of it's done if I have to do anything, okay? If that makes sense. Let's press A then on the keyboard, and up comes the appearance menu. And I was playing around before, so I've got a few sort of highlighted already, but in here you can choose anything you want. I've just searched for rubber. Let's see what comes up. So I've got rubber, hard, soft, weathered. The one I used before was the weathered one. And make sure you've got faces selected up here, and you can drag that onto, possibly, why is it not doing it? Oh, there you go. So you can drag that onto the bits that you want to be rubber. The one thing to say though is I would start with the part of the wheel, it depends on your design, but start with the part of the wheel that is going to be the fiddliest to do face by face. So if I do it this way around, which I have, by putting the rubber onto the tyre first, if I want to change this to, I don't know, some really gross gold alloy or something, I would have to then colour in each individual little face, because otherwise I'm going to wipe over the black tyre, if that makes sense. I'll show you what I mean. Let's go for something really cringy. Gold. So polished gold. If I want gold alloys, so that I don't go over the tyre, I would have to do every little tiny bit, bit by bit. Because if I went to body / components and chucked it on the whole thing, no, actually, as long as I click keep, it's okay. What I was saying was, if I drag this onto here, normally you just go remove and it plasters it onto the whole thing. But actually, yeah, if you've done some bits and you want to just colour in everything else, you can just leave keep on the menu, if that makes sense. Anyway, so what I would do, yeah, I would put the metal on first, and then I would change it to faces, and then put the tyre on like this. Boom. Do I want to leave that gold? No, I don't. Let me change it. What should I go with? Aluminium. Nothing. Okay. Why is that? So I'm going to go with a polished aluminium. I want it on the whole thing. I want to remove the appearances I've already got on here, like so, and then now put the tyre back on. So as I keep saying, this isn't like a super accurate way of doing this, but it does create a passable result. And what I will need to do is just change that inner edge as well. In fact, I'm going to change the whole back of the wheel to be rubber as well, just in case from any camera angles it does pick up a bit. There we go, that'll do. So I'm going to hide this menu now. and I'm happy that that is my finished wheel. If I do some renders later on, this is how it'll look. If I take the visible edges off, it'll look something like that, which I think doesn't look too bad. So we will go with that. Right. So to make all four wheels, what I'm going to do is start by making the rear wheel on this side. So I'm going to use this tool here, the move/copy. I'm going to grab this body here, but hang on, let me just change the view. There we go. What I want to be careful of is, depending on where I hover, can you see the sort of X and Y axis sliders change angle? So for example, if I click there, I can move it this way and this way. I really want to make sure those are on the actual XY axis, okay? So if I go cancel, come back in here again, I don't want to click there because they are sort of all skew-if. I want to find a point like this in the center where the arrows are up, down, and left and right, because I want to just use this slider to stick one over here, okay? So create copy, I want that ticked, and I'm just going to slide it over here. So let me zoom in on the side just to make sure I get it where I want it. Yeah, that's pretty central. But also, don't forget, because the design is wider at the back, or mine is anyway, look, the tyre doesn't stick out enough. So I'm going to want to change the angle and just drag it out slightly, like that. There we go. Yeah, that'll do. Let's go OK. So now I've got the two wheels on. I just need to create the two the other side. To do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the mirror tool. Click on that. And I've got it set to bodies. So the objects I want to mirror are that one and that one. So you can see there it says two selected and they're highlighted in blue. And the mirror plane is going to be that one there. And let's go OK. And what's happening? There we go. So it has mirrored them about that face. All right, which means that they're the right way around. So rather than just grabbing them and making a copy for the other side, using the mirror tool means that they're going to be the right way around, and they're going to look right when they're done. So there is my basic set of wheels, and what we need to do now is do some more work on the cab here by putting in the sort of the cabin area and adding some lights and things to it as well. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. You could work from the side, but I like to work from above, all right, for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shape and chop into the body of the design and use that to create a glass area that looks like the cabin, if that makes sense. It hopefully will make sense when I do it. I know these things don't tend to make sense when I explain them, but yeah, it'll probably make more sense when I actually do it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create, again, a offset plane. I'm going to select that plane there and shift it up, like so. And I want it just above the car like that. All right, there it is. And looking down from the top of the car, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sketch on that plane. There we go. And looking down from above, in fact, actually, let me just look from the side for a start. I want the cab to sort of come to about here. So I do want to go out past these points there when I'm creating my cutout. So looking again from above, I want to create a drawing that maybe comes out to here and down to there that I can sort of chop away the top of the car using. All right. It might be easier actually if you do this from the side. You can instantly see where you want to bring this down to. So you could do this from the side. Maybe I will. No, I'm going to go from the top for now because I said I would. Let's create a drawing then. So I want to use a line up the middle. So I'm going to go up the green axis because I'm going to use that as a mirror line later on to make sure both are nice and accurate. And then what I'm going to do now is use what do I want to use? I think I'm going to use a series of probably 3-point arcs. So under the create menu, come down to arc, 3-point arc, and let's just keep changing the angle to see where I want to go to. Might want to come a bit further down than actually. I think I want the cab to start sort of there, maybe, the windscreen. So looking from above, I'm going to go from there. So you create the start of the curve, then you click the second time for the end of the curve, and then your third click then is how curvy do you want that curve. There we go. I'm going to do the same again. 1, 2. And what I'm looking for is where this point is here to try and get a sort of smooth transition. I don't want to do something like that and have a corner there. I want to try and make it as smooth as I can. And finally, I'm going to do a third one. 1, 2, and 3. I know there's a bit of a corner there, but what's important when you do this is that where these lines hit the center line, that they sort of hit them quite sort of square, as sort of perpendicular as possible, really, because when you flip it, you want to make sure you get a nice smooth transition. You'll see what I mean now. So if I trim that off there, oops, wrong one. This trim tool is not the most reliable. So if I trim that there, I can now use the mirror tool to go, right, this line, and this line, and choose the mirror line as that one. There we go. So I've got those objects selected, 1, 2, and 3, and the mirror line is this one here, and OK. Now, before I hit Finish Sketch, I'm just going to get my Snippy tool and cut away that there. Finish Sketch. There we go. Right. So creating that shape from above would now allow me, if I get my Extrude tool, to chop into the design like that. And what I'm going to do here, actually, to see if it looks right, is I'm just going to go intersect. Would that look right as a windscreen? So what I'm really doing here is I'm just sort of flicking between cut and intersect just to get an idea of what this is going to look like. Yeah, well, it might not be perfect, but I'm going to go with it. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel that for now and let it go back. And like I say, if you do this and you're not happy with it, what you can do is just create a sketch from the side and do it in a kind of this sort of way, by creating a sketch from the side, and using that shape then as the cutout. You could do that if you wanted to. But like I said, I'm going to use the top sketch to do this. Right, so what do we do next then? So I need to first of all make 2 copies of this piece. Because I'm going to be doing some butchering of this, I'm going to be sort of chopping away at it, I want to keep the original shape that I started with. To do that, I'm going to find which body it is. So it's that one there, body 1. And I right click on it and I am going to go copy. And then paste. There we go. So body 6 here, as you can see, I'm just going to OK all this. I'm not going to move it or do anything. But if I hover on this now, you can see on the left-hand side over here, see body 1 and body 6 keep highlighting. That's the 2 bodies that are effectively the same item in the same place. And if I hide one of them, the other one still shows. And if I hide both, they're both gone. All right. So I'm going to keep the original one, body 1, hidden. Body 6, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a extrude on this, like so. And I'm just going to go until it's all cutting into the bodywork. And I'm going to change the operation to intersect, like that. And what it's done, what intersect means is where this extrude crosses over with the body shape here, that's where it's going to leave material behind, if that makes sense. So it's like the opposite of a cut. It's like the bit you would cut away is the bit you're going to keep, if that makes sense. If I click OK, you'll see, look, that's what it's left behind, that piece. All right. And if I bring back body 1 now, you can see that's what it has, that's what it's created, that shape there. So let's hide body 1 and bring it back. And if I hide body 6, you can see, well, body 1 hasn't been affected, it's still as it was, right? So what I want to do is this shape here, this body 6, we want to take that and chop it away from the bodywork of the car, if that makes sense. I'll show you what I mean. So if I go up to here and go combine, So this tool here we can use for combining, but we can also use for cutting. I want the target body, the bit that I want to chop at, I want body 1 to be the target of what I'm about to do. The tool, the thing that I'm going to use for cutting, is going to be body 6. So I want the target to be body 1, the tool to be body 6. What do I want them to do? I want to cut. There we go. And look, it's showing me in red. This is what's happening. So I'm about to do a big chop out of the top of this. Now, do I want to keep the thing that I'm cutting away with? So body 6, do I want to keep it, the tool? Yes, I do. So I'm going to tick on that. Otherwise, what will happen is it'll cut away from body 1, but body 6 will disappear from here because it thinks you're done with it, okay? So if I go OK, boom. It doesn't look like anything's changed, but if I hide body 6, there you go. You can see there's now a recess chopped into body 1 where body 6, where it sits, okay? Like that. So I've not created any fancy internal shape of this vehicle. All I've done is created a shape like that is a different object to this one, just so I can colour in the 2 different pieces. And that is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to press A to bring the appearance menu back up. And for the purposes of this, what I'm going to do is find some black plastic, I think. If I just type black in here and see what I get. So I'm not going to go for, I could go with paint enamel glossy black and stick it on that component there. There we are. So you can't see any of the interiors. It's just literally a shiny black surface. I think for the purposes of what we're doing today on this basic design, that will be fine. And then for the body of the car, we go gold. Nope. Let's have a look what options we've got in terms of plastics or paints, or even anodized aluminium. Looks quite cool. Let's close down some of these menus so we can find more stuff. So I'm going to go into plastic, I think. And actually, what I might do is go ABS white and put it on there, because what I can do later on is edit that. So as you can see in the menu up here, ABS white that I've used here, if I right click on it, I can edit it. And what I can then do is change the colors to be anything I want using these sliders up here. So what color shall I do? I might go for like a sagey green. No, I don't know if I like that. Don't know. What should I do? I'll go blue. Yeah, there we go. So you can change all that in here. You can change the roughness and how reflective it is and so on and so forth. There's lots of advanced settings you can play with that we don't really need to worry about. So if I close the appearance menu now, as you can see, we have got a basic car, 4 wheels, we've got a cab. It's just missing things like lights now. And there's a couple of ways of doing this. I think the simplest way I've found to do it so far, and remember this is all about trying to get a result as simply as possible, is going to be to do this. So if I go construct and make another offset plane, I'm going to grab this plane here in the middle, so this one, the one that's sort of on that plane there, and I'm going to move it towards the front of the car, but not completely out the front. I'm going to bring it back so it's sort of there-ish, okay? And then go OK. And then on that plane, I'm going to make a sketch. And what I'm going to do, there's way too much ground clearance on this car, unfortunately. Oh well, I'll get over it. So what I'm going to do here is create the shape of the headlights. In terms of being, or trying to stick with the retro cool kind of look, I think what I'll do is go round for this, and How far back if I put that plane? Is that going to stick out? Maybe. And then I'm going to put another one, if I go on the front again, put another one maybe here for an indicator or something. And then using the line tool, I'm going to put a line up the middle because I'm going to reflect using the mirror again those two objects in that line there. And as you can see, they appear over here. So finish sketch. So I've got that sketch back there. And what I need to do now is extrude this, and that is actually you can see there it is sticking out of the bonnet very slightly. That one. So it's not letting me click on these two because they are within this object. I think so I'm trying to click on that. So I'm going to hide. Was it body 1? Yeah, I'm going to hide body 1 so I can select those and then re-reveal body 1 so I can see what's going on in a minute. Now, what it's going to try and do is it's going to try and do a cut. I don't want a cut. I would like, what would I like? I don't want to join either. If I do join, it's going to be part of this body, and I don't want that. But if I go new body, there you go, you can see it's going to create these 4 objects here, and I'm going to go OK, like that. And these will be the sort of the basis of my lights. Now, these two here, for a start, they look like they're stuck out too far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my extrude tool, grab just those two, take those back a little bit using the cut operation. Go OK. And these ones I'm happy with, right? Next, let's get the fillet tool. Oh my god. Let's try that again. Get the fillet tool, select that face, that face, that face, and that one. I've actually picked up the edge on there, but it shouldn't make any difference. And just put a fillet on those. There we go. And then what we can do is get the appearance tool up again. I'm just going to use, for the purpose of this, the same glossy enamel black that we used for the cab. There we go. That looks pretty good. And in terms of rear lights, you could do exactly the same thing. Or if you wanted to go slightly fancy, what you can do is, rather than just using circles for this to pull forwards, you could actually create more sculpted light clusters. I'll show you what I mean. I know this is a basic tutorial, but I'll just show you in case you want to. So, for example, if I wanted to create rear lights that were a little bit more interesting in shape, you could do things like this. Get the fillet tool. Actually, trim that. Fillet. Can I fillet there? Yeah. You could create some shapes like this, where you've got more fancy sort of geometry, which you can then just do exactly the same thing with. So I'm just very quickly going to do that. Whoa, what did I do? Came out of the sketch. Let's go down here and go edit sketch. So as you can see this time, I've not offset the plane, I've just drawn it like in the middle of the car. I'm hoping this won't clip through the outside as I do this, but we will find out. It doesn't mean I have to do a massive extrude though to get it out the back of the car. So let's mirror that. Make sure I've got all of the lines. So I've got 4 selected. So that's this curve, and the 2 fillets between. The mirror line is this one here. Okay. And then finish sketch. And then finally, let's extrude that. And see, again, it's not letting me select that. So if I hide body 1, get it out of the way. There we go. Bring it back. I can do the same. And because of the curvature of the back of the car, see, it's gone a little funny. Like it pokes out here before it's out at the bottom. So to be able to see the whole light cluster, I need to keep going and going and going, which, you know, doesn't look great up here. If you've got that problem, you could like make a plane on an angle over here, but I'm not going to talk about how to do that. Or you could do an intersect like this, and basically make it the same way as we made the cab. But again, I'm not going to go into detail on that because I think that's kind of beyond the scope of what we're going to do here. So I'm just going to make that new body. I'm going to go OK. And even though this looks a little dodgy, I'm just going to go with it. Stick a fillet on that white cluster. OK. And yeah, we'll call that good. And obviously, depending on your skill level with this, you could what happened there? Yeah, depending on your skill level, you could go on and on with this and make some hollow light clusters with bulbs inside, completely hollow out the shape of the car, and put a proper sort of cabin area inside, and all these things. Even though these are just literally basic solid shapes, you know, there's scope to sort of go quite a long way with this, and sort of use whatever other skills you've got wherever you can, really, to try and make this look more and more realistic. The last thing I'm going to do, I think, before I call this a day, is I'm just going to put a number plate on the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sketch on that plane, and I'm going to do a rectangle that starts in the center here because I'm going to mirror it. So I want to mirror that line, and that line, and I want the mirror line to be this line. Again, trim tool, snip, and finish sketch, extrude until it pokes out. New body, OK, and then colour that in white. There we go. So that, I think, is finished. All right, so that's like I said, again, a very basic design, a very basic way of creating a sort of design concept. Obviously, I've not really thought about the design too deeply, so this isn't particularly great. But obviously, if you've got a bit more time, you can spend longer doing this. Okay, so that is a very basic way of creating a car. If I can be bothered, I will make a more advanced video showing you how to do more advanced things like wheel arches and bumps in the bodywork and things like that. So if you want to, have a look for that video. But otherwise, I think we are done here. The only other thing left to say is when you're finished, you can then go into the render workspace and start creating some really cool renders of this design. Okay, if you've not done that before, a good place to start would be with it was the bottle, the cordial bottle series I did. I think the 5th video, number 5, was about how to do the renders, so you can go and have a look at that if you want to, and that would explain to you how to create those renders. Okay, because whilst this looks okay if you take a screenshot, it'll look a lot better if you do a proper render. All right, okay, I'm done. See you later.